sneaky scheme is working. Oh boy, I broke apart my insides. Oh boy, I've got no soul to sell. Oh boy, the only thing that works for me. Help me get away from myself. I wanna push this button. Your audience is gonna love this. This is not, 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 this is not my hedgehog stew. Oh boy, I'm gonna make some hedgehog stew today. What? It's my greatest gift idea. Get that damn hedgehog right away. Oh boy, I'm gonna make some hedgehog stew in the afternoon. If it's the last thing I do, I'm gonna get me closer to God. SSSSS1, SSSSS, SSSSS1, SSSSS. You can't have my isolation. My secret project. You can't have the hate that it brings. I'm about to make history. You can't have my absence of faith. You can't have my everything. I guess that works. Maybe. Oh boy, you tear down my reason. Oh boy, sex I can smell. Oh boy, you make me perfect. Help me become somebody else. I wanna push this pingers. It may take me years to catch that horrible hedgehog. If I wasn't so happy, I'd retire my last day. There's only one cure for a Robotnik. Yeah? Obliterating that hedgehog. What was I saying anyway? If it's the last thing I do, it's only a matter of time before my hedgehog stew. So nothing can stop me from conquering.
Okay. Now they should all be able to see you. The people of the internet are waiting. Hello,
Hi.
people of the internet.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory,
No,
the show where
no.
we ask,
Oh.
who is this?
Whoa. Okay. So well, sorry. I'm pulling it up on my phone so I can make sure everything is going according to plan and smoothly, and also so I can check chat. So hi, people on the internet. I know I haven't been around in a while. I've been busy with school and editing the Freedom Planet video, but we just got back from seeing Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and we thought it was just so incredible that we had to talk about it, and I decided, hey, let's make this a YouTube video, so why not? So, y'all, if you're here in the chat at all, you are welcome. Share your thoughts. This is Spoiler Zone. So, very clearly by the title, if you get in here and you complain about spoilers, that's on you, because you did not read the title of the stream. So,
many
People don't read.
So many.
we will be talking about like the movie in full, basically.
yeah, the entirety of it. So my current idea is that I'll just go through the Wikipedia page listing the plot for the movie, and we can go with our thoughts as we go along. Is that okay with everyone?
I think
Who are you,
first,
man? Who are these lovely people?
Oh, that's right. No, you're right. I should introduce everyone, because some of you have been on the channel, some of you have not. So if you don't know me, I'm Maddie, Kit the Goddess. I run the channel. Wow. Okay. Whoever wants to go next.
I'm Dylan. Don't really have any social media platforms at all, but yeah, just came to see the movie. Really fun time.
I do. This is my Scrunkly. I've been on the channel before. I have a YouTube, but I never upload to it. Not yet, at least. I've got stuff planned.
She was in FNAF IRL.
I was in Five Nights at Freddy's in real life. I was the chick talking about the FNAF lore.
Yes.
I also have a frozen Mountain Dew with
Watch.
me, so
I'm gonna plug this
movement.
again. Watch X Blue. You watch X Blue.
Watch X Blue. They're very good. They've been hard at work on their next project.
Yep.
I am the bean who lives inside your walls.
This is Rollins.
That's the bean who lives
Rollins
inside
makes
our
all of the worst jokes on my channel, and for some reason will not let
All
them
of
go.
the best jokes.
This is the Catholics guy.
No.
People love Sonic's feet. People love the Catholics.
I'm just gonna say, I might be able to beat that. We'll see.
Oh God.
Oh man.
You presented them with a challenge. Good job.
No.
All right. So I'm Avery. I have social media, but you're not allowed to know about it. That's all I got. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so everyone's cool with just the structure of I read the Wikipedia page and we talk about it.
I think we should first go over
yeah.
favorite parts.
I feel like that's more appropriate if we just do that as we are talking about the as we talk about the plot.
That's fair.
I have like a whole bunch of like notes on
How about
here.
like we start with general like thoughts?
That's a good point. Yeah,
Sure,
let's,
Then we go into the plots.
Yeah, let's do general thoughts first. Good point. Yeah, so who would like to go first?
So I think that like one of the best things about Guardians of the Galaxy is that all of the characters are just like really, really flawed people, and that just makes for a really interesting cast, and it kind of like more. I would say more than the previous movies, they really tried to tackle these flaws and bring them to the light in this movie compared to like I want to say Guardians 2.
I definitely agree. Yeah,
and especially with like Gamora like coming back, but like not the Gamora that we knew. I feel like that was some really interesting drama. I thought that the themes of accepting your flaws, because the main villain wasn't able to accept like the flaws of like creation or whatever.
See, okay, I'm a little bit stupid. I didn't make that connection until you just said it, and I'm like, oh, okay. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, like Rocket Raccoon isn't able to accept his flaws, and like the entire theme of the movie is like coming to terms with your past and being able to like move on and acceptance. So I think like the really huge themes of this movie are accepting your flaws and moving past them, and that's really reflected in the ending. And I also think that this movie really kind of like goes with like stages of grief. I think that if you look throughout the entirety of the trilogy, it's just about Star-Lord and all of his companions going through those stages of grief. And now we're finally at the acceptance part of this trilogy.
I think, yeah, that's super neat.
Okay, I do want to sort of piggyback off of like the accepting flaws thing, because they also did that just as a movie, because they had so many tropes of movies and also just Marvel movies, and they took those tropes, executed them, and then afterwards completely ruined them on purpose.
Exactly. They subverted them.
Yeah.
You know, they accepted the flaws and like the fallbacks of the writing for a general audience, and they made it better.
Yeah, I think that was such a neat aspect of it, and we can get into that more, of course, when we talk about the plot. But like, genuinely, that I think is what made this movie stand out so well, because while it has a lot of the tropes and things you would expect from a Marvel movie, it also twists them and uses them in really unique ways to make what I personally think is, I think this is the best Marvel movie. Like, I know I say this about pretty much every movie as soon as I come out of the theater. I'm like, damn, that was a really good movie. But like, in terms of me being a film major and just thinking about the overall film quality, like, that was insane. I did not, like, I knew this movie was going to be good because, you know, it's James Gunn. His stuff's always good. I did not expect it to be this damn good. Like, holy shit.
I'll say
I feel like not only... Oh, you first.
Okay. I generally am sort of iffy on Marvel movies. Like, there are some that I find enjoyable. There's some Marvel movies that I find enjoyable, but I never hold them to a really high standard. I'm not a fan of Marvel movies, but this one surpassed my expectations of what a Marvel movie could be.
Yeah, and see, I should just oh, sorry, what were you gonna say?
As like a semi-Marvel fan, like I've been there since the beginning, but after Endgame, I kind of like fell off a bit. Like I haven't seen Eternals, I haven't seen Black Widow, I haven't seen the new like Wakanda Forever.
You should see Wakanda Forever; it's very good. But yeah,
but I felt like there were like some Marvel movies recently that have been disappointing. From what I've heard, Eternals was really bad.
I would disagree with that, but
I think, well, from what I've heard, it was kind of mediocre.
it was
And
mediocre.
also-
It wasn't bad.
Yeah, and also Multiverse of Madness
Ugh.
was kind of
Such a shame
mediocre.
they never made a sequel to Doctor
Yeah.
Strange.
Never, at all.
Such a shame. But
That was a very good movie, but it never got a sequel.
and also, what other movie was it? And I felt like Ant-Man and the Ant-Man 3 was kind of iffy in some places. It could have been a bit better.
Same thing with like both Ant-Man and both Quantumania and with Doctor Strange 2. Or a lot of great ideas, not the best execution. Quantumania is
Like,
definitely
the pacing was just really off too.
yeah.
Like,
Quantumania is
they
definitely
tried
a
to
lot
cram-
better than Doctor Strange was, but it's still
Not entirely.
it was still very flawed in its execution.
Personally, I thought the flawed execution was what made Quantumania so funny.
No,
Yeah.
Quantumania is a good movie if you view it as a comedy. And
Quantumania is an
nothing else.
incredible comedy.
As a comedy, it's amazing. As a Marvel movie that's supposed to set up essentially the new Thanos, it's all
It's
over the
pretty
place.
lackluster.
It disturbed me that I agreed with the villain.
Damn, sucks that he's not played by anyone at all. Wow.
But yeah, like one thing that I like about Marvel though is that they really tried to grow with their audience, and you could feel like in the first Guardians of the Galaxy that it was a little bit like kiddie or corny, but I felt like with this, it was very campy. But I felt like with this movie, like it was very mature. Like
Still can't.
I mean,
but
he's-
there was a lot of camp. But like there some jokes, like the more that you look at them, like were really deep.
And like the campiness is just a part of James Gunn's style. He excels at
I
making
adore James Gunn.
at making he
When I
excels
say
at,
camp, it is a compliment.
yeah
Compliment.
he excels at making very campy films with very cheesy aspects, but then using those aspects to tell a really compelling story with emotionally deep characters. And I think that's
I know it. I know I say it every time, but he made Lollipop Chainsaw. Well, he and Suda51 made Lollipop Chainsaw. So.
Yeah.
Lollipop
They were just like
Chainsaw?
the jokes were really integrated very well in this movie, I thought.
And it's like okay, that brings up
Adam scene.
That brings up some beef I have with like people who criticize specifically the Guardians movie. They're like, "Oh, they're all just set up in punchlines. They're too comedy focused."
No.
You're thinking of other Marvel movies.
I don't know who you're talking about, but I don't.
The thing about the jokes in Volume 3 is like there's a bunch of jokes with Drax, where Drax will just say like point blank to characters' faces like exactly what he's thinking, and like it's often really funny, but it's like, maybe what he's saying is right. Because like at one point, like he makes a joke to Star-Lord that like, oh, you should get over like Gamora or some shit, and like it's really funny, whatever, because he says it in like such a straight, matter-of-fact way, but it's like really, really true.
Well, it's funny because it's blunt, not because it's wrong.
Yeah.
Like
I think
I
the
think
best
that's a
thing
really
about
good
this-
I think it's a really good like just lens to think about Guardians of the Galaxy as a whole, is that it's not set up in punchline, it's just blunt, and it's really good at it.
Yes.
Like, I wouldn't say that it's like a comedy movie like Thor Ragnarok, like just doing jokes that like it had jokes, but it was mostly like seriousness and story.
The thing about the jokes was that there kept being these moments where we would have like something very, very sweet and very, very like wholehearted, like they put their whole heart into it, like whether it be these scenes of pure positive or negative emotion, and the whole time I've just been conditioned to think like any moment now they're gonna cut away to something, they're just gonna like
They're gonna
stop
like
the
lamp
story,
it
cut
or
to
some
something funny.
shit.
No, they never did that. And I'm 100% like agreeing with, there was an episode of Overly Sarcastic Productions that came out where Red talks about how that's like such a prevalent thing
You're
in
talking
films.
about the Bathos one.
About Bathos, but like used in a negative sense. And the fact that they never use that, they never go for the cheap angle, I respect beyond belief.
No, yeah.
Mhm.
Also,
thing
Among
is-
Us is canon, and I think that's funny.
Yeah, the Hatsune Miku thing was
Hatsune
very
Miku
funny.
is
And
The
then-
Hatsune Miku
I
is
wasn't
canon to the Marvel
starting my
Cinematic
joke.
Universe.
When I was going to give my general thoughts, I was just going to start with I liked funny Among Us costume, and then get into seriousness.
For a second there,
Uh,
I thought it was actually like the Pac-Man ghost.
See,
but
that's
no, one
what
of them
a
was
lot
green.
of that's what a lot of people were saying online. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense because one of them's green when it should be pink. If it was Pac-Man and the ghosts, it would be.
No, like here's the thing with the jokes. Like James Gunn knows when to use jokes. He also knows when like using jokes in an emotional moment to undercut what's about to be an emotional moment, and knows how to do it well where it doesn't feel cheap.
Yeah, I'm thinking
Basically,
like.
James Gunn knows when to joke and when to play straight.
Yeah, and it's like again, it's like he does a
James
really
Gunn
good
knows
balance
where
of
he
those
is,
because
right?
like talking in a more specific point in the plot where it does that really well is like right after we witness we witness the end of Rocket's backstory where all of his friends are killed. And like we get to the point and then after that immediately emotional that big emotional climax, one of the most heartbreaking scenes in the movie, it immediately goes to the joke where it's like Drax like sticks his arm out and knocks the guy off the bike. Like it's literally like he knows when to, he knows he has a very good balance. And it's not like a jarring shift or anything. It's like it's done so well because the audience needs a break from such an emotionally heavy scene that it's literally just them setting up why Drax and Mantis aren't at the ship for later in the plot, but it's like they do it in such a short and humorous way that's just so simple that it works really well.
Oh my god, whenever they were on the bike, that was the funniest shit ever.
Yeah.
Whenever he was like, yeah, we're going to drive over to the ship, and it's like less than like 100 feet away, and then he just drives away to get to fucking Star-Lord. This shit was funny.
All right, since we're talking like plot points now, y'all want to do the plot
we should probably
thing now.
get into the plot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Do the
Let's get into
chronological
the
thing.
nitty gritty.
all right, I'm gonna pull this up on my phone actually because for whatever reason, if I am not on the tab with the camera, it just does not show the camera feed on the stream. So I'm gonna have to do this on my phone instead. So Wikipedia,
Yeah,
Guardians
don't,
3.
I think that's because it streams from a window as opposed to a tab.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Okay.
And I got some things to say about Rocket Raccoon later.
Oh,
Same
dude. Okay.
here.
So
Mhm.
yeah, so it starts off with the wait, this isn't in order. I hate this. It's not in
we
order.
can just do it. We can
Too
just do
scary,
it.
just
normally.
Okay. Yeah.
But okay. So the
So okay, how about we
is
talk?
the movie
Let's
supposed to
so since the movie kind of goes back and forth between the Rocket backstory and the stuff in the present day, let's start with the Rocket backstory and then pick up with the main plot.
We
Okay.
can start. Okay, let's actually start with the guy bursting into the city and how he
Oh, Adam Warlock.
injures Racket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's basically the setup of the movie. Is that after the holiday special, the Guardians are like they bought Nowhere from the Collector, and they're like trying to fix it up, turn it into like more of a central hub, and basically make it less seedy and grimy, and like turn it into a nicer place. And of course, Cosmo and Kraglin are there now too because they're now permanent members of the Guardians as of the holiday special. But yeah, pretty much immediately within like the first 10 minutes of the movie, Adam Warlock shows up, tries to kidnap Rocket, and there's just this brutal fight scene. Like that.
Everybody's getting their ass kicked.
Yeah,
It's
like
just it felt like a fight scene. Like it felt like the Marvelized version of a fight scene in Invincible, somewhat.
I feel like
Like
this.
that's how brutal it felt.
I feel like
Much less
so-
gore, but still very brutal. Like someone's
I feel
arm is
like
broken.
okay. I feel like the first fight scene is such a good tone setter
Mhm.
because like you're not shown that unlike Guardians 2, where like the intro fight scene is like, oh, they're kicking ass and they're taking names and they're fighting like
Nah,
this
so their
alien-
asses are getting kicked
Yeah.
and their names are getting
their
taken.
their asses are getting like kicked, and it's immediately established that hey, Star-Lord isn't in a good place.
Yeah,
right
'cause
now.
I mean, he
Yeah,
starts
the
off
first
the
time we
movie
see
drunk.
Star-Lord, he is drunk.
Mm-hmm.
I also
He's just
sorry. So
his girlfriend.
to skip back a little bit, I forgot the entire intro shot with Rocket just walking through nowhere. I think was really well done because I mean, as a Marvel fan and somebody who follows this stuff, I knew Rocket was going to be a central character to this movie. If for the people who didn't know that, that's a really good way to establish it because it tracks him for like
Very much a Rocket movie.
it's like it tracks him for like 2 minutes straight. I think just showing him walking through nowhere singing a song.
Intro. It also kind of mirrors the intro of Guardians 2 a lot, but because that one started with this song too. But in this one, it's a lot more of a somber song.
Yeah,
and
God, what song was it? I know it like the specific song. I know. I thought it was a brilliant choice because like it relates to Rocket's.
This one was Creep.
The old one,
right? Okay,
yeah.
It's like it fits Rocket's story so well because like the movie opens establishing the High Evolutionary and Rocket's past in just a gorgeous scene where it's like it shows Rocket before he was mutated and cybernetically enhanced, and it like just shows just the hand reaching in. Yeah, what were you gonna say, Olive?
The use of the licensed music over the course of the movie, generally the use of licensed music in Guardians is done very well, but it's been a while since I saw the first two movies.
Tastefully.
So I was sort of like taking inventory of the stuff. Every single song's lyrics have a lot to do with what's going on, with the exception of No Sleep Till Brooklyn.
Especially Creep with Rocket. Like I'm a creep, I'm a weirdo. What the hell am I doing?
And like especially the lines like I want a perfect body, I want a perfect soul. Like goddamn, like
no, all the songs are really well picked for the scenes that they're in. Not even just like even excluding the fact that a lot of them have lyrics that work well. Just the tone of the song with the music of it also just helps a lot in a lot of these scenes.
Yeah.
Another
when
thing
we
is,
get to it, I'm not going to shut up about the No Sleep Till Brooklyn scene.
Oh yeah, dude.
Okay. So the
it
best
also
part,
kind of like the creep thing also kind of establishes like the theme of like eventually Rocket's going to have to accept himself because this movie is about Rocket accepting himself mostly. And at first, he doesn't really accept himself at all, hence the song Creep.
Yeah.
That's it.
Also the best Marvel character for...
okay, so,
favorite?
yeah, so the most, important part to me about this opening scene is, the way they create dissonance with, they tune out everything around Rocket with the music. In all of the other shots that they have licensed music, anything that takes place in the movie, you can hear that over the music. The music in this shot takes priority over everything else, creating a wall around Rocket and Rocket's thoughts.
That's so
isolating
neat.
himself. Like it creates this hyper focus on the one character despite how much is going on around Rocket.
Yeah, I think as we were saying with like the I'm sorry, I want to gush about like the very opening scene where it's like they that it's like establishing the High Evolutionary. And for those of you who don't know, or who are just watching because you don't care about spoilers, you should go watch the movie first. Please do. It's phenomenal. This movie...
The High Evolutionary sucks.
Yeah, so it establishes the High Evolutionary. His whole thing is he wants
Jack
to...
and make him worse.
Yeah,
Not worse as a character, but worse as a person.
Yeah,
his whole thing is he wants
I think that like a lot of the merit of this movie comes not just from its story elements, but the way that they are told, too. But right, like, are we going to like talk about the fight scene a little bit?
I want to talk about this since this happens first. I want to.
We're kind of going like plot point to plot point.
Yeah,
We're trying to follow the plot.
So with so like the opening with the High Evolutionary is like it establishes his goal, which is he wants to make like the perfect society bullshit. And he's like experimenting on animals and stuff, and of course Rocket ends up being one of his first experiments. And like the film opens with just this shot of Rocket.
The thing. That's the thing. He's not one of the first.
He's like the
He's a prominent
98th,
Yeah.
89th.
89th.
Yeah, like
He's part of
He's
the
like the 89th batch, not
He's
the
in,
89th
like
experiment.
batch 89, and it's the fourth one to be experimented
Yeah.
on. Because that's the disturbing thing, that this has happened
No,
88
he's not-
other times.
Yeah.
I think it was like 1-3 or 31 or 13 something. He was batch 89, either 13 or 31.
yeah.
But they
And
focus
so
on 3.
It's like it opens with just this incredible shot. I remember seeing it where it's like just the hand of the High Evolutionary reaching in to this cage full of like baby raccoons, and I'm like, wow, that is like just an incredible shot. And the music, like, or not the music, but like the sound design in that immediately establishes how Rocket feels in that moment. Like, even just as just a normal ass raccoon, it immediately
It's very
establishes
uncomfortable.
the fear and like the anxiety associated with that. And then you just get this horrifying scene where it doesn't show any of it, of course, because it can't, because it's a PG-13 movie. But it's like it immediately establishes how like what happens to Rocket, and it's like there's like a line from like one of his the High Evolutionary's goons where they're like, yeah, stitch him up and throw him in with the others. And it's like you could just and like you can hear the way that like the sound design is incredible because they convey so much of what's happening without even showing it. You can like hear them cutting his flesh, and it's terrifying. But and then of course they zoom in on Rocket's face and show and of course do a time lapse of him aging to get him up, and then we cut back to the scene we were talking about with Creep, where it's just him walking around through nowhere. And I'm pretty sure most of it was a single shot too. There's a couple of shots in this movie. You guys know the last one, but where it's just
Like the No Sleep Till Brooklyn scene.
Yeah.
where it's just a single shot. And I think that's a beautiful way to not only bookend the movie, but I think establish how, again, like I said, how important Rocket is as a character in this movie.
Yeah, because Rocket gets like pretty. Because this is all happening while Rocket got like pretty heavily injured.
Yeah,
Um,
'cause, like
Because
Adam,
like.
Rocket was unconscious.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
so like the way it is
feel
during the Atom
I feel
War
like we
lock.
forgot to mention something.
What's that?
Okay, so like the entire reason why this flashback is happening is because the entire crux of the movie is that the Guardians have to get a key so that they can operate on Rocket, because Rocket got very heavily injured.
During the fight with Atom Warlock
yeah.
that we mentioned.
Yeah, during the fight with Adam, where everybody basically got destroyed by him. But since he was an experiment, they basically tried to safeguard their intellectual property
With a
by
kill
not
switch.
allowing,
Yep.
yeah, by not allowing people to like do any research on him without killing him.
Or not even just be able to operate on him. So they like try to use like an automatic med
Or
pad,
even, like,
which they very
a med
smartly
pad.
show how it normally works on Mantis beforehand. But then they try to do it, and that activates the kill switch, which prevents them from doing anything to heal Rocket, who is the most badly injured out of everyone. And so basically, most of the movie is them trying to get the kill switch, or not the kill switch, but to get the passcode to deactivate the kill switch.
it's very interesting, and I like it a lot that one of the last lines in the previous movie, Guardian of the Galaxy Volume 2, is basically Rocket talking about how they all showed up, and he was sort of talking about himself at Yondu's funeral.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole movie is basically them putting it all on the line in order to save his life and show up for him.
Yeah.
They've been hitting at Rocket's past so much, especially in the last movie, where like Yondu is like, I know who you are because I am you.
I fucking love that line. That's such a good interaction.
That's one of the best.
You're me. Yes.
Yeah, that's one of the best scenes in that movie. But like they've hinted at it so much, and now they're finally paying it off, and they're giving you like little glimpses and pieces of his backstory while he is like fading in. Well, not fading in out of conscious. He's just flat out unconscious. But he's like, it's kind of like he's going. He's
I think
like,
it's implied his life is flashing.
yeah,
before his
his
Yeah.
life is just flashing before his eyes.
And this is also being used to inform us as the audience what happened in his past. Because throughout the entirety of the first and second acts of the movie, it's cutting back and forth between the Guardians trying to do their thing to save Rocket's life, and also showing us bits and pieces of Rocket's backstory to establish where he came from. So
And
yeah,
it's like, and it's done really well because there's always the risk when you do storytelling like this, where like the flashbacks could kind of bog down the pacing
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot. But most of the most of the flashbacks are like sort of used as like emotional fuel to add more like weight to the actions that the Guardians are doing to try to save Rocket's life.
Yep.
As in, it puts the audience more into the headspace of Rocket and how much life has essentially sucked for him. And then it gives you the hope by showing what the Guardians are doing, what his current friends are doing for him now, in order to give him a chance at a happier life. And
Yeah.
I feel like that sort of back and forth really helps not make them sort of bog the movie down and give them even more of a purpose than just being like plot points.
Mm-hmm. But before we
Giving more emotional weight.
Yeah, but before we get too far into the Rocket's backstory stuff and the rest of the movie, we should talk about the Adam Warlock fight, which was just, as we were saying earlier, is just an incredible establishment of the tone. And I think having James Gunn work on the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker with DC, which are both are rated R and TVMA respectively, I think that
There's
definitely
a lot of violence.
I think this is definitely the most brutal Marvel movie in terms of fight choreography, in terms of gore they're able to get away with a PG-13
No, I
rating.
think Doctor Strange had more gore. I think Multiverse of this had more gore.
Here's the thing. I feel like Doctor Strange was gory and brutal in a horror movie way, but in an action way, this is probably one of the more intense ones.
Yeah, like Adam gets stabbed through the chest in like the first.
I mean, okay, but
fight.
stabbing isn't a thing that's really uncommon in PG-13 movies. I'm thinking more the part where it's like Adam rips the pig thing's head off, or again a lot of like the end where the High Evolutionary's face is revealed, like that sort of stuff.
And there's also the scene where the dude got incinerated. And like into his skeleton.
Yep.
No, and like to me, I just kind of internalized that as like, oh, this movie is aging with its audience.
Mm-hmm.
Like whenever Guardians 1 came out, we were all like, right now we're 20 somewhat, and I think that it was around like 15.
2014 was when it came out, so almost 10 years ago, so 9 years ago.
So I was like 11.
It was not that long. That is. Oh,
it was 2014.
Yeah, I was like 11 whenever Guardians of the Galaxy came out.
I would have been 12. Yeah.
So everybody's 9 years older, and I think that they can take that amount of like violence and gore now.
I think it's also important to establish that the movie is also growing with its characters, right? Because that's something that that changed. Like looking at Star-Lord, like pre and post Thanos, like you can see the sort of things that he's okay with doing.
Yeah.
Then and now.
He's a much older. Star-Lord is a much older character now, and I think he's had some of the best progression of any character in the MCU.
Looks a lot more buff, I feel like, in this movie compared to other ones.
Then there's also the fact that I feel like he's a lot more less quick to just immediate violence. Like he'll do violence, but he's not like needless violence. And then I feel like another thing with the Adam fight, particularly in terms of setting the tone, the characters are at essentially a low point because of the results of Endgame.
Yeah, and like we established earlier, like we said earlier, Star-Lord's like drinking, and they established that it's been a regular problem because Gamora's like again or whatever, and when she has to like carry him out of the bar.
No, that was Nebula.
Nebula, that's what I meant. Yeah.
And then with that whole Adam fight, it's so scary because he's not even like the main villain. But it sort of like shows like it basically just physically kind of shows how out of sync and how much of a low place this team is really in.
And it's also like it's also interesting that pretty much every time, every part of that fight, when Adam fights like almost all of the Guardians, I think actually every single one except like Cosmo, but like He fights every
He
single one of them, but
basically-
he fights them all one-on-one, and they all get their asses kicked. Like, specifically, I'm thinking of, like, the part where it's, like, Nebula, and he, like, punches her, and, like, leaves a fucking dent in her,
Dent,
and it's,
yeah.
like, and then, like, of course, there's the part with Drax where, I forget it, does he stab Drax, or does he, like, oh, no, he's just beating him,
punches
He just fucking pummels his face. Like, he just keeps
pummeling
on
his face
beating
in,
him.
and then that's when he gets stabbed, and he's like, "Oh, it hurts because he got out of the
Because he's
cocoon
never,
early."
yeah,
So
he's never been stabbed
basically
before.
a child, and he's never been hurt before.
Yeah.
And then, of course, after that, he leaves.
Yeah.
Which I think is really a good way to establish not only the threat of this character, but how you can appeal to this character given his childlike innocence.
Yep. I think, that whole scene, that whole fight scene is just a great
Such a good
setting
tone
of
setter.
pace, and it's like
Right,
when
and
you
then-
when you see Rocket get hit and like he flies across the room, so it's like, oh shit, that's not gonna end well for him. Like you
Yeah,
can
also-
tell.
I think the
Mantis?
level. Sorry.
It's okay. You can go. You can go.
I think the level. I think the tone at Guardians 2 is a lot more happy and upbeat at the beginning because like they're going against like a planet level threat. Like they're literally fighting against a planet. Versus in this one, it's a lot more personal. So the director kind of has to make it, or the writer kind of has to make it so that they're fighting. They get their asses kicked at the beginning, so that the audience sets the bar lower for what they're capable of. Because this movie is a lot more of like a personal and character focused story.
Yeah, they still get their happy ending, but they have to work for it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. So the thing about Adam Warlock is, there are a lot of elements of the Guardians that are meant to work as a team, right? A lot of them aren't strong individual characters, and showing that one of them is missing sort of illustrates that. And when they're not all in it individually, there's not much that they can do. And you can just see that in when Mantis tries to engage Adam Warlock. All he does with Mantis is he grabs her arm and snaps it.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
that's it.
That's
On their
all-
own, like, especially at that low point, there's nothing they can do individually. It's only when they work as a team that they can actually
No,
make
yeah.
progress.
And
And
also,
I-
like, speaking of like the whole fight scene, I think just in terms of like the cinematography for it was incredible. Like, I'm thinking there was like the one shot where it was like, I forget, like somebody gets thrown or whatever and is rolling on the ground, and the camera like moves and rolls with them. And I think that's such like. It's like the way it's shot, everything is like an up close shot. You can see exactly what's happening, but it's like so close it's obscured, and it's like I think it's just a really good way to again enhance the brutality of the fight.
Oh yeah. It's also just like you want to go first or
Go for it.
okay. It's also just really important because like it's a great inciting incident because of all the reasons we listed, but also just like it sets the tone, it shows the point where the characters are at now, and then like after the scene we sort of immediately get more information where it's like, okay, we need to save Rocket, and then we also get information about the main villain that Adam is working for.
Yeah, so yeah, I think that's a good enough point to move on to the next scene, where I'm pretty. I think it's the next scene. I don't know specifically, but we can
Well, we
just
can
go
just
in general.
move on to like various plot points. They
Yeah,
don't have to
so
be specific
yeah, so
things.
the thing,
Yeah,
so
just
Adam,
be
it's
in
revealed
order.
that Adam Warlock was working for the High Evolutionary, as we established, because the High Evolutionary wanted to kidnap Rocket and take basically just to dissect his brain, pretty much,
his
so that he can study,
Yeah.
because he's the only creature there was ever that the High Evolutionary has ever created that was able to learn, like, just think of something new. Because for at that point, every creature he'd taught was taught specifically from them, and they weren't capable of thinking anything new, at least in the sense that the High Evolutionary wanted. And with God, what was I gonna say? I forgot. But Oh no, yeah, because and so like it's established that one of the High Evolutionary's experiments was creating the Sovereign, which explains why High Priestess Aisha and therefore Adam Warlock are working for him, and he's like threatening to destroy their species if they don't cooperate, pretty much.
Yeah, God complex.
Yep.
Speaking of God complex, there's a pretty raw line.
Raw as fuck.
We're at the
Yeah,
end.
yeah,
At the
it's-
end, are you thinking? Is that what you're thinking of? That
Yep,
one at the end?
it's just the line, there is no God.
So I stepped up.
Right.
Or so
So
I
I
stepped
stepped
in,
up.
yeah.
I
That's why
became
I
it.
stepped
Yeah,
up.
that's why I stepped in.
Which is
Mhm.
the
Yeah, that's
most
why I stepped
one of the most raw Marvel villain lines of all time.
Yep.
And it also just perfectly encapsulates this character.
And
As
then,
in-
okay,
yeah.
and then what happens next is the funniest thing to me, because this dude establishes his role as God, and somebody else
Well,
points a gun at
this-
him. Like,
this
that's
is
going
like-
to work
this is
against a God.
Well, they established before that, oh, this guy is so huge as like a biomedical, well, as like a bioengineer or some shit, that like some civilizations revered him as God because his company is so huge that it's created like civilizations and
Well,
planets.
he created the civilizations. The company just funds that by doing other stuff.
Yeah, it's basically I think it's Gamora that says it's basically like his like the way to get legal funding for his
Yeah.
experiments.
Yeah.
Company.
Yeah, it's more, the company is more of a cover.
Yeah. And they also like really establish the way that how much of a threat he is in that scene, or in like that first scene where he's talking with Aisha and Adam Warlock, because like he there's the scene where he Adam Warlock has already been established, extremely powerful character, very difficult he bested every single one of the Guardians one-on-one, and yet Adam Warlock is just able to fling him into the wall and threaten
You mean
him,
the-
and threaten
the
Aisha by
evolutionary.
killing him. Yeah. Oh, that's
And
what.
threaten their entire civilization. Don't forget that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
but it's like it
Basically-
immediately establishes how physically powerful he is too with his telekinesis. A lot of Marvel villains have telekinesis recently. I'm realizing because we had
And
High Evolutionary, we had Kang.
I mean,
who else?
technically with him, it's more gravity manipulation according to him.
Yeah.
But it's functionally telekinesis.
And also Marvel heroes and miscellaneous characters, because like there's Cosmo.
Yep. Oh,
Like there's just a lot of telekinesis that goes around.
here's the
And plus there's
interesting
also sorry, what
one of Thanos' henchmen had it.
yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah, but
Ebony
also-
Maw, yeah.
also the arrow of what's his name? Yondu.
Yondu's arrow.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
and now Kraglin.
Yep.
Kraglin, yeah.
So there's
The
just a lot of
interesting
telekinesis.
The interesting thing about the High Evolutionaries thing specifically is that it's stated and established that it's more so based on gravity manipulation, which ties
Right,
back
he
to
mentions like
opening
now
scene-
even gravity.
which ties back to the opening scene with Rocket, where Rocket is just sort of nonchalantly says to Nebula, "I've been trying out these new like gravity boots to see how they work on a slope."
Oh,
Oh my
I
God.
never
That's
thought of
how
that.
he's able to get out of the thing and do like I know it's a meme, but it's actually done well in this movie.
It's
where he's like, "I'm
Chekhov's
Rocket
boots.
Raccoon," and then he proceeded to Rocket Raccoon all over it.
And he was rocking all over the place.
Chekhov's boots. Oh my God.
Okay, I will just say,
It's like
you
Chekhov's
have
shorts.
somebody who's controlling gravity, and then somebody named Rocket.
Yes.
Rocket
Yeah.
fights gravity.
Rocket beats
Rocket
Gravity.
Raccoon.
Yeah, that's
Like
it's cute. There's a lot of cute's not the correct adjective, but there's a lot of really cool things that if you're paying attention to them, pay off enormously.
yeah.
Cute is the right adjective for my girl Floor, though. Never forget Floor. I adore her.
Well, okay, should we talk?
Yeah, I think
about
now's a good enough time to just talk about the entirety of the Rocket backstory. So
Yeah.
for that, I guess.
But
So
before we do, and as much as I love this film, we are but two mortal humans, and we're both very sleepy. Is it okay if y'all continue without us?
are
Sure.
you sure?
I'm so for sure.
Okay.
You might have
Alright.
noticed we were on our phones just now. We didn't want to interrupt the flow of conversation. We were like, "I'm sleepy. Are you sleepy?"
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. As much as I'd love to keep
Last
discussing this
10 out
with you
of 10.
guys.
I wish you all the best
All
of
right,
luck
if
in
you
your
guys
discussion,
have
but
any
also
ideas that you want us to talk about, send us the notes and we can bring those up for you.
For
Yeah,
sure.
sure.
Send us like the notes in the chat.
Yeah.
I mean,
For sure.
this
Mhm.
chat, not the live stream chat. Whatever.
Mhm.
All right. See you
Okay,
guys.
fun fact, I cannot make a good heart shape with my hands.
I
Yes,
try
you
very
can
hard.
do
I'm
my
it
bad
hands
at
now.
it.
I
don't
believe
work.
in you.
I'm bad at it.
Here,
But-
just do this.
Yeah, no, that's what I normally do.
That's okay.
Arrow.
Angle above it.
Okay,
Alright.
see ya.
See ya. Bye bye.
Adios.
Bye.
All right, rocket backstage.
All right. So yeah, now that they're gone, let's talk about the most depressing part of the movie. So
I love it. I love it so much.
the Rocket
because
backstory was done so well.
It was done really well. I will say there are some scenes that are supposed to be more impactful, but the fact that and I like whispered this to Rollins during the movie.
Oh
one
no.
of the
Yeah.
one of the one of Rocket's friends
Otter.
shared a name with my ex-girlfriend
Oh
who deleted my Minecraft cathedral
no!
that I built for her. Yes, that one.
No, but
So-
here's the thing, like, not getting into that baggage. Let's get into the fictional character.
Okay, so yeah,
but-
basically we have Rocket is established with these three other
Three
other
friends.
they're
who are
subjects, more
experiments.
subjects of his experiments. And eventually, not in this scene, but there's a scene later on where they're naming themselves, and they're like. And Lila is the otter, all of these characters have some kind of like, they're not like, they're incomplete in a way, I guess, where it's, or like have some kind of, injuries or, or like just,
They have cybernetic attachments.
yeah, where it's like Lila has, she's an
Arms.
anthropomorphic otter, so she has, where their front legs / arms are robotic, and, then there's Teef, who's like a walrus and has no legs and has like
no tail, no,
yeah,
like,
no
bottom
no
half.
tail, yeah. So he has like wheels,
wheelchair.
and then there's Floor, which is just a regular ass rabbit, but with a thing in front of her mouth like that looks like teeth and just spider
and
legs.
spider legs.
And spider legs.
Then I love Floor, so I love
Floor's
them all.
great.
Because, like, even though they're not there that long, like, they all have very, like, clear, distinct personalities. And the most disturbing thing about it all is that, like, these are children. They are all just children.
Literally, like,
And
okay,
they-
I will say I have one issue with the film. Whoever voiced young Rocket, I could not understand what they were saying half the time.
I disagree, but
I didn't have that issue.
Okay, that
didn't
was
have
just
that
me
issue.
then. So
that's a skill issue.
mhm.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the thing that like created the most emotional connection to me was the fact that they all had like you could see why they were all there and which order they were created in
Yeah.
based off of the portrayed level of intelligence.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you could tell which ones were earlier experiments.
Yeah.
Lila was clearly the earliest, then probably Chiefs, and then Floor, and then Rocket.
Well, I
No,
would
the earliest one would have been Floor,
yeah.
and then
you're
Chiefs,
talking
and then
about-
Lila.
Yeah,
thought you
I think
meant,
that's
like,
really
They would
interesting.
be there, and okay.
Yeah,
You're talking about it from the experimental thing. I thought just by them existing longer and getting more mature, but
And it also shows you like I think they're also introduced in the order ascending or descending order of who is the oldest, where it's like they introduce Lila first, then they introduce Teef, and then they introduce Floor, I think. So like
no, yeah.
But yeah, so they basically there's a lot of scenes where you're establishing that these are literally pretty much mentally they're just children. And
Like there's a scene of them playing tag together
Yep.
in cages,
And
and
there's-
they're like
yeah,
laughing.
and so as the plot goes along, High Evolutionary clearly favors Rocket and is like explaining his plans to him. Or he's like, I'm going to make the perfect society or whatever. And eventually there's a scene where he like is like working on batch 90, which is the successor to Rocket and his friends batch. And he like mutates. He's mutating a turtle to the point where they're pretty much anthropomorphized, but they're super aggressive. And Rocket's like, oh, there's this problem with your machine. That's why they're doing this. And High Evolutionary, eventually, they work this out and they figure out, oh my god, Rocket was right. High Evolutionary gets super pissed off about this. How was my own creation able to outsmart me? I am God. Is God complex?
The reason he wants Rocket's brain.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily. I mean, Rocket is technically the first to have a new thought.
Yeah, that was a line he specifically said.
That's just because the visionary considers himself so intellectually superior to everything else that after teaching all these creations and they do things based off what he taught them, he's sort of disappointed that they don't do anything and his idea would be original. But when one of them basically corrects him and then they're not supposed to be the perfect batch, it angers him because it's like, why are you, the imperfect one, have the one thing that I need for this puzzle to come together for my plans?
Yeah.
And it's just so, like, interesting. Like, it's kind of funny because it basically, you can kind of describe this movie as, okay, we dealt with Peter Quill's daddy issues. Let's deal with Rocket's.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because there is a scene where before that, he kind of has a fatherly moment with Rocket, but then it's kind of all of a farce. It's with the whole where he's like talking about music with Rocket.
It's very much tainted by the fact that in a later scene where he's like interrogating Rocket, where it's like, how did you know how to fix the machine, that sort of thing, and he just pretty much just spiels out his whole plan. He's like, oh, you thought you were going to the perfect society? No, that's batch 90. Y'all are gonna die. And
no. Like, I love that this villain is such a hypocrite, and the way that he sort of.
I mean, at that point, anybody with a god complex is at least a hypocrite to some level.
No, yeah, but I love it because it's just I always love villains like this, where like, and you see that this is not saying that like people like this are villains, but you see this type of behavior in real life where like someone prides themselves on being so intellectual and logical. And if they brag about it a lot, they're typically the first to get really emotional and throw like the most personal insults into an argument.
Yeah.
Which is why Rocket figures out the fate of his friends and whatnot, and they try to escape. But of course,
so Rocket had been stockpiling. Yeah, Rocket had been stockpiling a bunch of gadgets, which is established in an earlier shot. He's just been stockpiling a bunch of stuff, and he built himself a key card, which. To be fair, I think that is kind of a bit of a plot hole where it's like, oh, why would Rocket have just specifically built a security keycard without, if he completely trusted the High Evolutionary, which is established he pretty much did. That is a bit of a flaw.
I think this is more, and now I'm not sure if this is stretch or not. I think this is just more him collecting it was more either him subconsciously thinking about that or more connected to kind of his kleptomania where he's just obsessed with taking people's things like batteries or people's limbs.
But then how did he happen to take exactly the stuff he would need to build a security key card?
I think it's both, right? I think, like, to me, it seems like a what if I need this? Yeah. I should take it because what if I need this?
There's also, like, the fact that he's implied to be super intelligent and also, like, super curious. So it could just be that he wanted to see if he could do it.
Could be.
But it is kind of a plot
I think it's a little bit contrived, yeah.
But at the same time, like with the rest of this movie, like, I feel like it gets a pass.
It's one of the only things that has that put in the movie.
Sometimes in certain plots, you just need the thing to make the thing happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something that they could have easily explained a bit better. Like, there are a lot of reasons for why he would do that.
The movie already has a 2 hour and 20-minute runtime, though, and considering this is all stuff that had happened in the past, I don't think it's super relevant. So, like, I guess
I don't think it's too necessary.
Yeah.
But basically, the more important thing is that, of course, you know, you get the small hope. And, like, yeah, I was expecting them to die, but I wasn't expecting all of them to die or die that suddenly. They get out, and the first one to go is, of course, like, the first one that was introduced. The otter,
Lila
basically just gets shot.
Yep.
immediately, dies, and then
Yeah, the High Evolutionary
Rocket-
himself, he's like, yeah, I figured
Yeah.
you'd try to break out after I spieled everything to you.
Then Rocket goes fucking feral.
Yeah, like it's like it starts where he just starts crying because he's
Crying
a
like a
child
child.
watching
Yeah.
what was essentially a mother figure to him die. Like,
Yeah,
Ugh.
like his closest friend, and just died in front of him.
yeah, and so he starts sobbing, and then the High Evolutionary starts mocking him, which sets Rocket off, and Rocket literally scratches his face like completely off. So for the rest in the present day part of the movie, he has like his face like stitched on, like kind of like a false face.
Joker mask.
Yeah, but of course that's concealing the fact that Rocket like completely destroyed this guy's face.
Just fucked up his face.
Yeah.
Yeah, also, can we talk about, like, the High Evolutionary's aim for that shot? He shot one bullet that went right into the heart chip.
Yeah, he just shot an otter. He shot an otter, basically.
I mean, for somebody who considers himself the perfect being, I mean, I'm sure he's got to have some.
I'm just impressed.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I don't know, the like it wasn't that far of a range, but we're not going to get into that semantics.
Yeah. So, anyways, Lila dies. Rocket goes and fucks up the High Evolutionary, but in the meantime, the guards have shot both of his other friends and killed them.
The guards come to shoot at him. He immediately shoots back, but the stray bullets went past him and hit his friends.
Yeah, and so then he, and so, of course, Rocket escapes on a ship, and that's where we leave off. That's all we know about Rocket's past at this point. So, like, I think, honestly, like, the way that they do it, it sets up, like, they've hinted at Rocket's trauma from all of this in the previous two movies, but getting to see it, like, the movie spends, like, a good, like, 20, 30 minutes of the runtime in Rocket's backstory overall, and I think that was a really smart decision.
And, like, they did it well. Like, it hits. It hits like a truck. And there's a lot of moments that, like, in them that pay off in the present. Like, Rocket is the only one of them to see what a sky looks like.
Yep, and so there's a line where he's like, we're going to fly off into the forever and beautiful sky.
Yeah.
And they did a funny with the marketing where they had adult Rocket's voice actor say all that, but the adult Rocket never actually said that in the movie. It was all young Rocket. So they did the funny marketing thing.
I feel like another like cool thing about it is that's during the scene where he's naming himself, and he's like, "We're gonna go in the sky. I'm gonna build machines that can fly. I'm gonna be Rocket."
Yeah,
and it's just really cool. Nice breath. Just
Shut up. Okay. So anyways, back to present day Guardians. The Guardians figure out, okay, Nebula is using her. She has a really cool new arm in this movie, by the way. I think that was really cool. She has like the wing upgrade she did when they were fighting Adam Warlock. Yeah, I thought that was really fucking cool.
But
anyways,
the next thing is
so
they're basically like, let's break into the flesh prison.
Yeah, so they go to the company that funnels High Evolutionary money, and they're like, okay, they're the ones who made this. They're the ones who made this DNA kill switch. So we got to go there to get the code to undo the kill switch. And they leave Kraglin and Cosmo behind to guard Nowhere while they're gone, and the rest of them fly off to this flesh the entire space station is grown all with organic matter, and it's really fucking uncomfortable. But like,
yeah, it is a flesh monstrosity with buildings.
That it's not like alive. It's not like a creature in the sense you would think, but it's just like synthetically grown flesh, and it's
like, why did they give it like? There's just occasionally a very large hair, like just every.
The thing is with this, it's really cool and well executed concept, but it's like this is the second Marvel movie where they had control panels that were essentially pus and like flesh.
You're not wrong,
Quantumania, and like I kind of love it, but at the same time, why?
I'm sure it's something they took from the comics.
Like,
is my
this
guess.
one, it makes sense. Like Quantumania also makes sense because like weird microscopic bugs things. But this one also kind of makes sense because they're like a bioengineering company. So of course, with like
I'm
the
sure it was
sort
just
of
like a
Guardian of the
publicity stunt
Galaxies
where it's
is,
like, look, we grew
it's
this space station out of organic matter. That's
And
not fucked up
will
at all.
say, this whole sequence, is probably like the most like comedic, like slanted part of the movie. Sure, there's some dark moments and parts where they get injured, but like for the most part, it's very comedic. Especially the guy who's like, "Yeah, I have one of them too," talking about like a moron.
Oh,
and he
yeah,
just
where
talks
it's-
directly to his coworker about how much
Yeah.
he
Right.
hates.
So
So-
so they called he's like, yeah, he's like the nephew of the boss.
Because
Like,
they're like they're
well,
trying to
how
they're
that
trying to
is.
keep up cover and pretend that they're supposed to be there because
Yeah.
they're wearing like the
Yeah,
uniforms of the
they-
company.
Because basically, Nebula calls in a favor with her sister, who's the past version of her sister. So none of the previous two movies happened to this version of
Gamora. Yeah, this is the Gamora from
Gamora,
Endgame. This is Endgame Gamora.
who basically became a Ravager.
Yep, and we have the
and then
classic.
they're
We have the
like,
Guardians
hey,
classic who
They're
are
like,
working
hey,
with her
you
as
go steal
Ravagers.
these things. Here's some disguises and Among Us suits. Go do that. You go do the thing. And then with Gamora helping them. And
And
there's
of course,
like a lot
like,
of awkward moments.
There's a lot of awkward moments between Gamora and Star-Lord throughout this scene where it's like it's basically just acknowledging that Infinity War and Endgame happened and establishing, hey, this Gamora is a completely different character. Like, she has not gone through any of the shit that happened in the
No,
MCU
yeah, it's kind of,
up till
it's
this
kind
point.
of like how there was like those whole scenes in the Loki TV show that basically be like, yeah, this isn't the same Loki. Even
Yeah.
though he basically watched the other Loki's life on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, so and then there's like a lot of tension where it's like a lot of this stuff was in the trailers where it's like Star-Lord coming to terms with where he's like, hey, if you ever want to reignite that flame, yada yada yada, and she's like, no, I'm not interested. Sorry, bro. And this Gamora is kind of a dick, and she's very selfish at first in the movie.
Well, because it's literally Gamora from the very first Guardian of the Galaxy movies
With
at
none of the
very
character
beginning.
development, yeah.
With none of the character development.
Okay,
But,
so one
like,
thing they
living
do
differently.
is at the end they showcase what Gamora was really like, because they show her what she's like with the Ravagers,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
And so
it's
she
sort of
has
showing-
that capability to be
She
emotional
just
and
doesn't have
compassionate.
that. Yeah,
She doesn't.
She just
have
doesn't
it
have
with
that
the
connection
Guardians.
yet.
with
and
any of
she's
these
just,
Guardians, which she
right,
has it
and
with
so
the Ravagers.
they're
and not
talking
with
to
these
her
Guardians.
as if they're talking to her as if she, as she is now, like, is supposed to have significance to them, and there's a disconnect, and I understand why she doesn't.
No, yeah. So
You
she
know,
just
reciprocate.
kind of reacts with like, "You're a bunch of strangers to me. Stop being so weirdly emotional."
Yeah, the
And
only
then-
one she has any kind of connection with is Nebula because
Nebula, and
she
that's
has
because
a Nebula from
but
her
it's
time.
it's a different one because it's before they have like the talking too.
Yeah, there's
So
the running gag where it's like they introduce it, the only times they acknowledge each other are just it's so good. I love that. It's great. But yeah, so they call in a favor from the Ravagers, include the classic Guardians from the comics that made a cameo in Guardians 2. So you've got
Sylvester Stallone.
Sylvester
is
Stallone,
here.
yeah. And they did cut Michelle Yeoh's character, which I am assuming is because she played a character in Shang-Chi and they didn't want the same actor being twice for confusion. But like, honestly, I don't think it would have mattered if she was in there. The Guardians Classic are in the movie so little, and also their character designs are wildly
Designs
different.
are so different.
I don't-
They're so
yeah,
different.
I don't
I didn't even notice that she was in Shang-Chi.
Yeah, well, she was the aunt in Shang-Chi when they go
Well,
to.
I didn't even realize that. What the? Like that just goes to your point that like the character design is so different because like if I remember correctly, her shot in the second Guardians movie, she had like things on her eyes and had like
She's a very long hair covering her face, long stringy
Yeah.
black hair, and she's got like the green outfit. But
yeah, but like basically there's a lot of good like comedic moments in this. Like it also shows off like Nebula, though she does care for the Guardians, she's still like trying to get more used to the group, especially with her dynamic with Drax and Mantis.
mm-hmm.
She literally refers to them as bug, doofus, go do this.
Yeah, so
Like-
they basically they accidentally discard their spacesuits when they're trying to fight off the guards when they come in to check on the room that they entered through. And so Drax and Mantis go and try to find a new way out for them, if I believe is what they were doing. And then
Yes.
Groot's on the ship, hanging back with to keep an eye on Rocket in the ship, and Gamora, Star-Lord, and Nebula all go to retrieve Rocket's the data core on Rocket's creation.
And there's just like
which is
just
also
like
flesh and bothers me. But
no, yeah. There's that. No, the core is like a weird flesh, like hexagonal prism thing or like weird thing that lands in slime that you didn't have to pick out of the slime. I love how gross it is. But another thing with this is that there's also just like a lot of really good jokes throughout this whole segment, like Mantis getting past a security guard by making the security guard in love with Drax.
Yep. Or like
and
this,
Drax
or like
implying that this is a typical thing that happens.
yeah, and also he's like again, really, or is like every time or so something
No,
like that.
every time. And then
Yeah.
there's
There's of course
basically-
Gamora's being like much more violent than the Gamora we know.
no, then there's Gamora being like Guardians 1 violent.
Not even
more
like
so.
even more so, where it's like
Even
she's
more
just
so.
willing to shoot, like they're like
She shot someone in the leg
yeah,
when
like
they were trying to like be like, hold on, let's not be rat. Shoots them in the leg.
and then it just lingers on them screaming in pain for like 10 seconds.
And, like that person wasn't even a part of the action. Like, they were just an innocent bystander.
They were basically the person who was hired to look at the security cameras.
Yeah, and so then there's
and
also
they
like
got up from their desk to be like, hold on, and then get shot. But there's also like another really good like funny joke where like Gamora's basically like essentially fuck off, and then also like makes a joke about Nebula and Peter having a thing.
yeah,
And then there's just that stupid line where Peter tries to plays it off by being like, you have nice eyes. And Nebula's like, Thanos ripped out my old ones and put these in. And he's like, well, he picked out a nice set.
yeah, and then there's like the part where it's like Gamora's like, so like Star-Lord goes in and tries to sweet talk the guard into giving them, not the guard, but like whoever, like the clerk who runs the data center, trying to sweet talk her into giving them the data, and then Gamora just comes up with a gun, give it to us or you die, and like just like and then Star-Lord's like trying to play it off like, I'm so sorry, we don't usually do this. She's I don't know why she's doing this, and like it's like a running gag throughout like for like 10 minutes of the scene. It's so good.
No, yeah, and then there's also the funny thing with the payoff where he's trying to be like, no, she's totally into me. The clerk he was trying to seduce essentially.
Yeah.
And
he's like, please let me save the life of my friend. I need to talk to them. I know I need to talk to these guards. I'm sure they're very nice people. I don't want to.
It's like, I need to talk from the heart.
Yeah.
Like, let me speak to these people from the heart.
And then he's like, no, I just needed access to the controls, and then fucks with all their like jetpacks and gravity shit.
Yeah, what he says is, he says, oh, come on, I'm not that stupid.
That was great. So there's that, and then there's the whole fight scene where they're trying to escape after they get found out by the guards, and they manage to get the data. They managed to get the data core, but it turns out that exactly the information they need has been taken and deleted from the core and given to was basically taken by one of the
he
has like one of the computer chips in his head kind of things.
One of the lab assistants for the evolutionary.
Yeah. And so they're like, well, shit, now I guess we got to go find him. And so they go to the High Evolutionaries. They track down the High Evolutionary's coordinates, which I'm a bit confused on. How did they just get the coordinates of the High Evolutionary? That was a little bit contrived.
I'm trying to remember.
So it came from Nebula, I think.
No, it was Mantis. It was Mantis that said it, and she's like, his coordinates are here. Like,
I think it's just like, I don't know. I think it's just one of the things where it either just happened or we missed a detail, or it was just one of those things where I don't know.
I mean, I guess he's
Either
pretty
way,
much
they
a
find
god,
it.
so I mean, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he, like, broadcasts his coordinates publicly
Like
or
he
something.
basically,
Well, I think he has a planet. He has a planet, and
he
I
has a
think
planet that he's currently residing on. I'm sure there's people that pass
Maybe
by
that's
that
more
see
what it
these
was, and it
for
was just
him.
confusing wording with
It was
the
probably
strip.
just like, oh, these people spotted this thing. That's him. Let's go fuck him up.
Yeah.
And then,
yeah, I remember
oh,
it
wait, there's
being
also like the fact
Nebula
that it's
though.
implied as like a trap, so they might have been sent to them or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Like if they got the information from Nebula, that makes sense because
Well, no, they got it
Uh,
from Mantis, though, which is the weird thing.
I think Mantis said it was there, and I think Nebula was the one that was supposed to give the data. I don't know. Well, we
I
can.
think it was
rewatch
Mantis that said that they should like go to him,
Mhm.
and Nebula that like actually told them where to go.
No, it was Mantis because I remember very clearly Mantis like she has his coordinates up on the computer. It's
I'm
like
sure
here he
we'll
is. He's
figure this
right
out
here.
once when it's on Disney Plus or pirating sites, and we can rewatch it.
Yeah, but basically,
We'll figure out who's right.
that's a minor nitpick, but basically, so they go to this planet that the High Evolutionary has crafted called Counter Earth,
Counter-Earth.
and it's basically Earth, but inhabited entirely by the
basically
anthropomorphic
Earth in the
animals
80s.
that. Yeah, it's basically Earth trapped in the 1980s, created, which of course brings back some strange memories for Star-Lord because he's like, earlier in the movie he was talking like, and he was like, damn, like everybody who's around me dies, and except for his grandpa.
Stuff like, what about your grandpa and like whatnot.
Yeah, which I'm
It's
so
a
glad
whole
they touched
funny
on that
joke.
because I remember watching the first Guardians and I'm like, oh god, that would have been so crushing to the grandpa. Not only losing his daughter, but then immediately losing.
Oh, yeah. And there's also like the fact that it leads to like a really great joke about humans dying in their 50s.
Yeah. So so he basically so anyways, of course going to Counter Earth, which is literally just Earth in the 80s recreated but with anthropomorphic animal people.
Basically think like any like furries
Stop.
but in the 80s. But no, like there was this one adult cartoon based off these comics of basically an anthropomorphic cat character and a bunch of stuff that was made in the 70s and 80s. It's basically that. It's basically that.
God. Yeah, but it was basically so they go there and they start a fight with the locals at first, but
There's a language barrier.
yeah, but then then this family of bat people's like they don't speak the same language, so they're trying to understand each other. But it's like they're like generally, so there's a scene where it's like they go to their house. The bat people are like, okay, well we're gonna try and communicate with you and figure out what's going on. And so they take them to their house. And they're like trying to say like, hey, we're looking for this guy, the and they like Star-Lord like draws the High Evolutionary goons, and it's a comedic scene, very good. There's like the whole Drax keeps putting his feet up on the couch, and then Nebula's like, no, stop it, be polite, and he just keeps doing it. But anyway,
Like I love these scenes where it just shows off how much of a family these idiots are with like, the family like banter, because this feels like the type of crap you would hear on like a long family trip or something where it's like, no, be polite, or no, do this, like, or oh my god, I just hate you right now, that sort of thing.
yeah,
Because like it definitely reminds me of either like the holidays or whenever my family goes on a trip together.
yeah,
Like there's just like, sure, there's great moments, but those are just moments of just bickering,
yeah.
and they do that so well.
So yeah, there's
I
that. Oh, what were you gonna say, Avery?
I think that element is also really well it's really well illustrated by like how they interact with Groot over time as he grows up.
Yeah.
I think like that ties everything together as a family feeling.
Yeah,
I agree.
because Groot basically goes from being like, from the first movie being the weird uncle to the kid, and then to like the
And then
adolescent.
to the teenager in Infinity War and Endgame, and then he turns, and then now he's pretty much like
Now
a
he's-
young adult at this point, like an
He's
older teen
basically
young
the
adult.
buff- He's basically the 20-year-old that got Jack.
Yeah, he's so buff. He's so buff. I love this Groot's design. Anyways, yeah, so they're like, oh yeah, they're at this like tower with the High Evolutionary, and so they direct them there. Star-Lord, Groot, and Nebula take the family's the Bat family's car to the to the Bat family. Shush. They take it to there, and they leave Drax and Mantis behind to watch their ship, and Gamora's also in the ship.
But that doesn't last long because
well,
Drax.
I should specify. There's an important moment I forgot. Gamora tries to broadcast her coordinates to one of her teammates, to one of her Ravager teammates, so they can pick her up because she's pissed off that the Guardians won't take her back because Rocket's life is in danger, and they're like, we don't have time to take you back, and so she broadcasted. But of course, that Ravager has unfortunately been captured and is being interrogated by Aisha and Adam Warlock, and that's the part where he incinerates her or incinerates the guy.
Because Adam is a child and doesn't have full control of I mean, it's not
no,
that he doesn't
it wasn't that he didn't have control. He misunderstood. He misunderstood what Aisha wanted. She's like, show him we mean business, and then he just fucking incinerates him. But yeah, because anyways, yeah. So they basically she broadcasts her coordinates to the Ravagers or to Aisha and and Adam Warlock, and basically she's on the ship, just kind of pissed off that she's still here, and so anyways, as Star-Lord, Groot, and Nebula head to the tower ship thing, they go in. They're interrogated. Nebula's left outside because she's a weapon, and there's strict no weapons policy. But Star-Lord gives his, knowing it's a trap, and they probably won't be allowed in with weapons. Star-Lord
basically
gives his
stores
blasters
weapons in Groot
inside of Groot. Yeah.
They basically don't scan him because he's made of wood.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, that leads to I do want to say one of the best fight scenes I've seen in Marvel, which is the choreography of how Groot fights with the weapons, and then simultaneously creates cover shields with his body
for Peter. It's one of the best shootout scenes in a Marvel movie.
It's great.
Yeah, no, that was excellent. That was the scene. That was the scene where I just started smiling. That was not something I expected from a Marvel movie. That's the scene where I got hooked.
Mm-hmm.
No,
I got curious with the opening scene with the opening music scene with Rocket, but that's where I started to really get interested in the movie. Was that fight scene?
For me, I was already hooked as soon as we started seeing Rocket's backstory. Honestly,
I think the coolest thing about this scene is basically the Evolutionary ignores them till Peter forces the issue by being like, "Hey, you're the guy with the key," and then he starts what ends up starting the shootout, but then is the Evolutionary's like, no, basically uses gravity to push them down, but then because of what was it that caused the explosion?
Groot threw a grenade.
Yeah. Basically, the Evolutionary then starts to walk away by basically being like, haha, fuck you, I don't care about this planet because these creations are imperfect, and basically starts a sequence where there's just a bunch of bombs hidden around the planet just going off, and then he basically walks away. Then Groot throws a grenade. Causes a cave-in.
So he's like, well, I guess now that you guys are here, I'm gonna have to reset this planet all over again and he's like, it's implied that he's done this multiple times. So this man has destroyed multiple fucking civilizations that he built. God fucking damn it. But
yeah, well, I guess in his mind, God did fucking damn it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, he so there's so after anyways, High Evolutionary. I believe it's Star-Lord tries to attack the High Evolutionary, and he's like, no, fuck you, and retreats. And
then, no, he's like, I have more important matters to deal with, essentially, defying Rocket. He walks away, then the grenade goes off, it causes a cave-in, and while he's moving the rubble out of the way, that's when the shootout happens.
Yeah.
And then the funniest thing, where the guy that has the key in his head is like, mercy, mercy, and then he's like, it doesn't shoot him, and he's like, oh, thank you. And then Star Wars like, I wouldn't say that quite yet. And then fucking tackles him out the window of a ship that's currently going up to space.
Yeah, and then Groot dives in after them, grabs Star-Lord, and sprouts fucking wooden wings.
To basically recreate the most famous scene from the Toy Story series of falling with style.
God.
But not to bring joy to a child heart, but to brutally murder a man.
Yeah, and so Star-Lord is like holding this guy's head to the ground, and Groot, as they're landing, Groot he's he's fucking dead, and then drowns him for good measure.
Drags him, drowns him, and then cuts part of his head open.
Yeah,
they
cut
it's embedded into his head.
They cut the computer parts out of his head and get
So-
the key.
And then what's left of him gets crushed by their giant ship.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
while this is happening, Gamora is trying to fly the ship to escape. And the Adam Warlock shows up and tries to attack the ship and take Rocket. And then Drax and Mantis, who had left, they had left because they were, I don't remember why they left, but they knocked the guy off the motorcycle and steal his bike and meet up with Nebula to meet up with the rest of them. And Nebula is still waiting outside. So the three of them try to grab onto the Guardian ship while Gamora's trying to fly it away, and also fighting Adam Warlock on the inside. And then, of course, the ship almost crashes into Star-Lord and Groot as they're getting the key. They managed to get it in time. So
it's also implied that since this version doesn't have the memories with Peter Quill and all the other stuff, that she doesn't know how to drive this type of ship.
Yeah.
Because each iteration of the ship, there's multiple ships, but
this is just a brand new ship in this movie.
That it has the same controls that basically Peter Quill grew up with and used in his ship in the first movie.
I'm kind of okay. Not to be that person, but I'm kind of sad they ditched the Milano. Like the new one's called the Bowie, I think. But it's like they never explained what happened to the Milano. The last time we saw the Milano,
it's like I get like I wish they kept it, but the thing is, it's like one of those things where like that happens in a lot of superhero movies where they just get more and more upgrades.
Because they want to sell more toys and action figures.
Well, more toys. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we live in a capitalist hellscape.
Yeah.
We gotta sell them toys.
So the three of them, so they all eventually it ends up with Star-Lord and Groot manage to get onto the. Oh no! It's I had it backwards.
While this is happening, while they make their great escape, because this is like when they escape is when the guy comes in and he's like, well, they're idiots, they're jumping into an exploding planet. While this is happening, Drax basically gets bored, steals a motorcycle, and then convinces Mantis that like, oh, we're gonna drive back to the ship, and then drives to where Star-Lord is and Nebula is. Nebula is forced to wait outside. And then she's like, oh, I have to intervene. And it's like, Drax, get the ship. And then it's like, oh, we can't. And then she turns around, Drax is there. And then they try to break into the ship. They succeed within an instant. They break into the,
I should specify the High Evolutionary ship. They is the one they tried, because the tower ends up being a spaceship.
With the goal to save Peter and Groot, because they assume that they're still on there and they're in trouble.
And also to just, survive, because, they're going to be left behind on an exploding planet if they don't.
That too. But it's just funny that they are like, hey, where are you? We're here to, rescue you. And it's like, oh, I'm on the other ship. I'm on the ship that almost crashed into us with Groot and, with Gamora and Rocket. No, yeah.
But yeah, so they, they're on that call actually happens after they've already saved Rocket's life. So there's so they try to use the passkey and they try to use the passkey to stop it, but it's not happening fast enough. Rocket's dying, and we get glimpses, and we cut back and forth between Rocket, one of those stereotypical white void afterlife scenes where he's talking to Lila, and Lila's like, oh, we're all here, we're all ready for you to come home. And then eventually it's like, it cuts out, but it's like, but not yet. And then it reveals that Star-Lord's he's completely...
He's basically doing
CPR. Yeah, on Rocket.
Which also kind of looks a little funny because his hand's the size of his chest, so he's just doing it with one hand. But yeah. I love that trope. I'm a sucker for that trope where it's someone about to go in the afterlife and then someone dear to them is basically not yet.
Yeah.
Because it always feels like such an emotional gut punch. And one thing that I will say that I find interesting in the MCU that I really hope is explored at one point, there's just multiple afterlives.
Yep.
That's just a thing.
There's Valhalla, there's the Egyptian afterlife.
They're basically fuck it, every religion's correct.
Yep.
Yeah, and I also think, like, in this scenario, I don't think it was actually an afterlife. I think it was Rocket's image of the afterlife.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
that could also be a potential read, but either way, regardless if you read it as an actual afterlife or what Rocket is seeing in his final moments, I love the just emotional gut punch of like, not yet, you still have stuff to do, and I miss you type thing,
Yeah. So
and
they,
just like
And then they nuzzle.
yeah,
they
they do
nuzzle.
nuzzle.
but that was cute.
That was cute. I didn't see it as a romantic thing. I don't think that was the case at all.
I feel like it could be read either way, but
Because, I mean,
I
at
think-
the
I think
core,
they intended it for it to be read either way, depending on what you wanted to see.
I think it was like very much they are still animals at their core, and that's how a lot of animals show affection. So like, I think that works.
That's true, but let basically I see it, it's like it could be read either way. I prefer the friendship way, but you know,
I
some
agree.
people
I
see it as
honestly I
romantic.
saw it more
But
as
either way, it basically achieves the goal of like, fuck your heart.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah. So they save Rocket's life. He barely scrapes by and manages to live through it. They deactivate the kill switch, and so they're able to use a med pad to heal him instantly. And
Yeah.
yeah. So pretty much that's that. But then they realize, Nebula, Drax, and Mantis are all still on this other ship. And so we have to get them out. Nebula, Drax, and Mantis are in this room with a bunch of children who are planned to be basically the first generation of the new colony, they call it, which is basically just High Evolutionary's next experiment until
What's
he gets
his next
bored.
project?
But,
and,
And so I really like the scene where it's like Nebula is yelling at Mantis and Drax, and Mantis is like, no, you need to stop trying to find the flaws in everybody else just to make yourself feel better.
Oh,
and like they're talking about how like Drax is stupid or whatever, and it's like, and he's like, he makes us laugh, that's why we keep him around, and
he's
that
also
sort of thing.
the only person that doesn't hate himself.
Yeah, the only
And
person
I
that
feel
doesn't hate
that
himself.
was a line that hit.
Yep.
No, yeah, and I really like that line, and I also just like how, like, they have like the comedy afterwards to kind of get the back on track. Like, forget, like, you think I'm stupid? Forget, and he's like, ha ha ha. Type
Yeah,
thing.
that was.
I really like that their segments from this point on in the movie is basically Nebula learning like sort of the value of like not just intelligence and combat competence by seeing basically what
The way
she
that-
considers
yep,
the
and the
two
way-
weakest links bring to the table.
The way that Drax interacts with the children, there's like very much shows that Drax was a dad. Let's see how he gets along with these kids, and it's really sweet. It almost made me cry.
Yeah, and
But-
then also, so they then follow that up with not only Drax's significance, but then Mantis's, with how she gets them out of a difficult situation.
Yeah, because like there's the High Evolutionary, he captures them, and he's like, okay, drop them in the pit, and they have
Here's the three versions of the monster from the opening scene. The first
of Guardians 2, yeah. So it's like, I forget, like, the interdimensional beast, I forget the name of them. But they're like, there's three of them, and it's like, they've killed them before, but only as the group, and even then they struggled. And it's like, okay, how are we gonna get out of this scenario? And Mantis is like, no, wait, I think they're just more, I think they're more afraid of what we could do to them than we are, than we are of them. And so she uses her emotion powers on this massive base that was trying to eat her, and it's really cool because then they have the scene later where the three of them are like riding them back in
to basically convey that, hey, I'm not here to hurt you.
yeah.
And it's also like really well like done, where like she's the first to realize that, oh, they're just scared, and then there's also the whole line like they only eat batteries, which was established in the first thing because that's the whole reason they were there.
Just to eat
and
the
got
Animalax
involved
batteries,
with the
yeah.
Solve Ring, because they were eating those batteries. And it's just like very like well done. And then like while this is happening, like they're getting the rescue mission ready. I really like how fucking cool it is that they're like, okay, Crackle, bring in fucking Nowhere.
Yeah, so okay, so
Shoot them with a
basically
big-ass gun.
this final plot ends with like they Nebula, Drax, and Mantis manage to rescue themselves by the time the rest of the Guardians get there. And they're like and of course Gamora's there, and she's like, "Can't we just leave already? We've got everyone safe. Let's get the fuck out of here." And
They're like, no, we have to save the kids.
Yeah, and so Rocket's like, no, I'm done running from my past. I'm gonna fight, and we're gonna save all these. We're gonna save.
Gun. Now we get to the scene.
Yep.
that
Okay.
I,
So there's
I wish they were here to discuss it because Olive was very excited. The
no sleep till Brooklyn scene, where it's
no sleep in Brooklyn City scene.
No sleep till Brooklyn. Yep.
Is one of the best fight scenes in all of the MCU.
I think this is one of the best fight scenes in a movie period, where it's all.
Yeah,
so to describe it as best as I can, it is a 3 to 4 minute tracking shot. One single entire shot of them fighting off the High Evolutionaries' mutated goons in a hallway, and it's just
some guards
and some guards,
like,
yeah.
In the hallway, it's basically like a Star Wars hallway.
And
Drax forces it open with his hands, and then it's like the music's starting to pick up, and then the fight starts.
I want to know how many takes that scene took.
You know, that was a continuous cut.
Shit. It was like
that was a
it was
continuous
like 3
shot.
to 4 minutes
The
straight
choreograph
of a
was
single
very
shot.
detailed. Like there's so many like little moments where you see them like sort of moving around each other to fight as a team. Like one part where Nebula points a gun and Peter just kind of backs up a little bit so she can shoot, and then moves forward so he can shoot type thing. It was just so.
And then there's like the one where he like goes through the whole shot in the creature's chest as it dies to get back to the rest of the
fact
group.
that like this was very brutal, especially with like the creatures, because you know it's fine as long as they don't bleed red. Essentially,
Yeah.
I think. Where Groot fucking just puts his hand in one and just fucking branches explode out of it.
And I'm pretty sure like there's a couple scenes where like the parts where the camera straight up rotates too, like where the camera will like rotates to different angles. Like I want to know the logistics of how they filmed that, because that was insane.
There was also a backup like reverse zoom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, as like the camera backed out through everything. So it had to go through people's arms and like through full interactions.
It also like there was also like good shots of like did one of them get like a whole shot for them or something like that,
And then you went through the hole. Yeah, I'm sure that part was just CG, but like.
But that's cool. It's cool.
Yeah. That was definitely a really difficult shot to make, but another part I like about it, and I told Maddie this, was that they gave Gamora's sword weight.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
and that's very, very rare to find in movies, especially superhero movies, because they make these really heavy objects seem like they're weightless, because in the actual shooting they're using props, and
there's some cases they can be weighted props, but overall they typically are just like what's comfortable for the actor to hold, or what's cheapest.
Right, and this sword, they gave it weight. Like the prop probably wasn't weighted. But at least the actress, I don't know the name of the actress, but she
for Gamora, Zoe Saldana.
All right, yeah. So she acted as if the sword had weight while she was using it, and it was really well done. And I was really happy to see it because it made everything feel more believable.
No, yeah. There was also just like a lot of the stuff that the characters did in general, like felt like there was more weight and whatnot. Like some of the violence just was like whole type, that type shit.
Just like,
I think
they
it was
did that
good
in a
because
PG-13
it had
movie.
like
where
it was good because
like,
it had a more realistic like physics bar.
No, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like sure, it bends it because it's fiction, and there's some stuff that's a bit.
There's
wacky.
also just a giant walking talking
does
tree.
enough. It does enough to like put it in the realm of possibility. It's like sort of like, I guess this might be a weird comparison, but like certain parts of like Arcane's, some of their fights.
Yes.
Like,
the Arcane does a phenomenal job with weight.
Even though it's fictional and some there's like some like sci-fi fantasy bullshit that clearly like doesn't obey the law of physics. They do a good job of basically selling the part of physics that matter most in a fight scene.
Okay.
AKA impact and weight.
Yeah, no. Arcane is the bar for this. The way they do weight in Arcane is incredible.
Oh,
it is phenomenal.
I haven't seen Arcane, so I need to
stay on this movie for now. That was just a good
Maddie?
comparison.
You need to see Arcane.
I know.
It's not an at some point you need to. It's like you need to now.
Okay,
I know where you currently live. I will force you.
I'll do it when I finish Adventure Time. I promise.
Okay, yeah, but Arcane Arcane is a
best
show that
animated things ever.
everyone who likes action shows or shows with good plots. Like, those are two really general things. If you like those things, you have to watch Arcane. If you're an artist, you have to watch Arcane. It is a phenomenal show.
All right,
This is
I'll watch it at some
it's like
point.
a once in a lifetime type thing. Anywho, back to the movie at hand. Like, this is a really well done fight scene, and so another really good thing about it is, like I said, it's very much like a Star Wars hallway. They use that to its advantage, and my biggest thing with fight scenes is how they use the environment, the fighting styles of the characters, the emotional weight behind it, and the physical weight of it. Those are like the four big things for me in fight scenes, and they use the environment well for like the one-shot camera, Rocket jumping off walls and shit, and them like having to like do really clever maneuvers in the hallway, like Peter just kind of ducking, tucking, and rolling through the hallway while throwing essentially taser
And there's
bombs
also
on
the fact that they used a lot of slow mo in that shot too, where it's like the part where it, like, slows down as Rocket's in the air firing. Like, I know that part was CG because Rocket's a CG character.
Rocket, but it's so good. I fucking love Rocket. I love this fight scene. I love this movie. This is basically just like the rest of this movie's so good, but this is definitely one of those scenes that stands out, that shows you it basically takes all the things that this movie does so well.
The entire movie, I was gauging like, okay, I really like this, but do I like it more than Guardians 1 and 2? This is the scene that convinced me, like, I like this a lot more than Guardians 1 and 2. And I love Guardians 1 and 2.
This is the best ending to any of the Marvel trilogies.
Definitely. I think this movie single-handedly makes the entire Guardians trilogy the best trilogy out of any MCU movie.
This is the best follow-up movie this is the best follow-up movie in Marvel. Like, I still really like Spider-Man Homecoming as a first movie, but I feel like Homecoming, like, to me, wasn't lived up to by the rest of that series.
I like Far From Home more, but that's just...
I know, and I disagree with you. But
though No Way Home is great fan service, I kind of hate that it basically undoes a lot of the more interesting aspects.
I love No Way Home. I fucking hate the ending. Anyways, back on the subject.
I wasn't big on No Way Home. I was sort of like, I was okay with Far From Home, but like looking at Guardians of Galaxy and like that trilogy. That had a phenomenal ending. That had a phenomenal ending that, like, I feel like Spider-Man also deserved, right? I feel like this is something that, like, No Way Home
wishes it could be this good.
Let's be honest, all the like Marvel trilogies probably in characters you could argue deserve an ending good. Maybe not this good, but close to it. But like the Guardians of the Galaxy, I feel like it's the most solid trilogy in terms of quality.
Terms of overall quality. Guardians 1 is a near perfect.
Consistent.
Guardians 1 is a near perfect movie. The only thing that's bad is the villain. Guardians 2 is great. Does it have a lot of... Some of the characters do middle a bit, like Drax. Drax doesn't do a whole lot for that movie.
They don't add much.
Yeah, Guardians 3 is a near flawless film.
Oh, good. And then now after like this fight scene, they split up again, but like it's basically like y'all go deal with the children and get them on Nowhere because they
contacted Kraglin and had him fly Nowhere, which they converted into a ship.
Basically fly the pogging skull to them, shoot it with a cannon, and then make the skull go munch so the kids can jump into the mouth.
Yeah, and so basically then the rest of it is them trying to get the kids into the and I'm trying to get the kids onto Nowhere and safe from the High Evolutionary. And they also there's a brief fight with Adam Warlock, but he loses, of course. And they do manage to take him down. And then he did. Okay, he
attacked them while he attacked before the hallway fight scene.
Yeah. So Adam Warlock, the way that Adam Warlock's taken out is I think it's a little bit ridiculous. It basically during the planet explosion, Adam Warlock tries to go back and save his mom because Aisha's there too. And Aisha dies and gets blown up, and Adam Warlock gets blown up and flown back. And basically, the High Evolutionary has him restrained on his ship.
The way that I see it is that it's basically more of him just getting worn down. Because he gets blown up, sent up to space, then he attacks Peter Quill.
So he gets first he gets.
Don't forget
He gets stabbed at the beginning of the movie. Like,
yeah,
he gets pummeled and stabbed.
Yeah,
he gets pummeled, stabbed, blown up multiple times, and so of course when he shows up later, he's just fucking exhausted and just passes out.
Yeah, Adam Warlock doesn't really do a lot in this movie. I think that's fine though. I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed because they overhyped themselves with the post-credit scene from Guardians 2. And
I will say I liked how he was handled.
I think he was done really well in this movie. I think the fact that Guardians 2 had that post-credit scene and Guardians 3 took so long to come out after it, because it's been 6 years since Guardians 2. I think that's going to work in to Adam Warlock's disadvantage. But in terms of the way he was used in this film, I think it was fine. I liked it.
No, like every now and then you just need a character that's kind of there to get things done.
Yeah. And I think people, what's going to happen is, because I've seen a lot of people talking about, I don't think they handled Adam Warlock very well. I disagree. I think it's just because he was the post-credit scene. He was the main post-credit scene for Guardians 2, and it's been 6 years since Guardians 2, making it the longest post-credit scene wait that we've had, or the longest unanswered post-credit scene we've had since then, up until this point, is... I think that's just going to work to his disadvantage. It made people expect more than he was actually going to be. Because this is essentially the same script that James Gunn had when he initially wrote Guardians 3 before he got fired. He straight up said, any alterations I had to make to it for, extremely minor.
No, yeah. I will say another, really cool thing about this is basically when they split up and they're saving the children. There's, a cool thing where basically... Nebula has to use her robot arm to steer the ship because earlier the main villain basically had a temper tantrum.
Oh yeah, so there was an attempted mutiny where the line we were talking about earlier, where he's like, "There is no God, that's why I stepped in." So during that scene, his assistants and stuff try to take a mutiny from him because they're like, "You're obsessed with this fucking raccoon. You need to stop it. You're gonna ruin your society."
You're jeopardizing our whole enterprise and our ship, our lives, and our whole basically goal just because you're hyper focused on this raccoon's brain being the key.
Yep.
And I think and it's just and then he basically kills them all. And he's like, go get the raccoon, and the fight scene happens and all that. And then basically he goes to look for Rocket as well. Nebula steers the ship, stays there, and Rocket's like, here's the comm, because she didn't have one because she got captured.
Yeah.
So you can stay in contact. And then he basically goes off to basically catch up with the rest or something along those lines.
So as they're funneling all the kids off the ship, Rocket gets distracted because he finds a room full of captured animals from Earth.
He finds the room that he was in.
Yep, it's the exact same room he was in as he was getting mutated. And he finds a container of just a bunch of baby raccoons. Yeah, and it's a really sweet moment where it's just a lot of connection there. And it's you can feel it
just hurts your soul, and it's also just really gives a lot of fulfillment to the line, I'm done running.
Yeah.
And there's also just this sort of implication that he didn't know what a raccoon was.
Yeah, so and then he sees it on the plaque where it has all the information of where they were found, what species they are, that sort of thing. It says raccoon. And it's and so then of course the High Evolutionary shows up and tries to beat the shit out of him, and he fights him. He and the other Guardians start to fight off the High Evolutionary.
He basically abuses him in basically both physically and verbally by being you're worthless without me and whatnot. And then Rocket realized that it's gravity shit tech, and then hits the boots as mentioned earlier in the film. Goes down, and he's it was basically how the evolution would be how did you do, how are you the key and all this, and then he's because I'm Rocket Raccoon, and then fucking shoots him. And then the other Guardians come up, and it's basically just combo time.
All out brawl. They take down the High Evolutionary, and it's
And then
not
they
even a
rip off
hard
his
fight. They
face.
gang up on
They
him.
rip off his face and then are like, "We're just gonna leave you to die."
Yeah, so they
And it's
okay.
Gamora
So
that rips off his face.
yeah,
just
Gamora.
'cause.
Yeah, Gamora takes out like because it's like during the fight, like one of like the things
Yeah,
his
it's
skin
a
was
flap.
attached to was like a flap, and they she peels it off, and it's like genuinely I think that's probably the goriest thing they've put in a Marvel movie, or at least the most morbid, where it's like his entire face there is
His
no
nose
skin.
is gone. He only has, like,
he's missing
one
one of his
eye.
eyelids. He's missing one of his eyelids. His cheeks or his lips are completely gone. And it's like, goddamn, this guy, Rocket fucked this guy up. Good for him.
Yeah, deservedly so.
Deservedly so, yes.
Deservedly so. Like, this is like one of the like most fun villains to hate. Not in like the sense that he's like super charismatic, but he's like a great horrible villain. If you know what I mean. Where he's such an egotistical asshole that you just want him to die, and he's just and the actor just does such an amazing job knowing when to ham him up and when to have like fun with him, because he does have some fun lines and also has some of the rawest lines ever.
And the entire MCU.
God, that's why I stepped in type thing.
And then there's like
they leave him to die. And
Rocket's given the chance to kill him, and he's like, and to like just straight up shoot him in the face, and he's like, no, because I'm a guardian of the galaxy, and they just leave him to die on the ship instead of outright shooting him. So like,
which like I think makes sense for the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
It makes sense that they would be the type that would legitimately do like the whole meme where it's like, I don't even have to rescue you type thing. Like with that one Batman.
Yeah, I don't have to kill you, but I don't have to rescue you. Yeah.
Type thing. But like, I will say that like it's so funny that like while they're like, because Cosmo has to basically make an air seal for them.
So Cosmo this whole time to get the kids to safety is creating an air seal with her telepathy. For those of you who don't know, Cosmo is telepathic. Is the first dog sent into the Russian space
dog.
Yeah, and she's developed telepathic powers pretty much. And
I will say I love the gag with her throughout this movie, because basically in the beginning of the movie, Craggle gets made fun of because she does something with telekinesis that he can't do with his arrow yet. So he's like, "You're a bad dog."
Yeah,
and it mentally festers in her head the whole time like a real dog. It's like, you don't mean that, right? You don't mean that, right? You don't mean.
Yeah, and so then later on when they're trying to defend nowhere before this scene, there's Kraglin is finally learning to use the arrow properly, and there's a cameo from Michael Rooker as Yondu again, where it's like, I don't use my arrow to fly, or my heart to fly the arrow, boy.
But, like, during this thing, his arrow does get stuck in concrete, and he's trying to bring it back.
And then Cosmo lifts up 2 fucking pieces of rubble, smashes the guy clean between them, and then
there's even some yellow pus that comes out of the side when she does that.
And then he's like, good dog.
She's a fucking good dog.
Yeah.
And she's like, I knew you liked me, and licks him. It's just great.
Yeah.
But basically, I find it funny that they weren't expecting the animals and having sort of that Jumanji scene with all the animals.
All the animals are running from the ship, and then one of the guys is like, I thought we were only bringing the intelligent life, and it's like,
I will say that that was kind of an annoying line, but I will say that scene where before the guy shows up, where Rocket basically grabs all the raccoons and they all kind of go all over him, and
they were clinging to him like a mama raccoon.
And then he just looks around, but then he looks around, seeing all the other animals in cages. It hurts. It hurts for all the right reasons. It's a really well done scene. So basically, they're able to save everyone, and then they just let the ship blow up and let the guy die, which he deserved.
Yep. And then, but as the ship's blowing up, everybody makes it out except for Peter. and he's lagging behind. He jumps out and he tries
And he
to
gets
propel
saved
himself.
in the dumbest way.
He doesn't make it, and he's like freezing up, he's icing up, you think he's gonna die, and then Adam Warlock comes in and just recreates the creation of Adam, where it's like he reaches out with his finger and they
And
recreate
then basically brings him back in, and they're able to resuscitate Peter, and he's like, "Did that look cool?"
like out of every scene in the theater, that one got the most laughs from everyone.
Okay, that scene, they don't even have Adam as Adam. They have Peter
is
as
God.
Adam, and Adam is God.
Yep.
But the funniest thing about like that like whole thing is just like it's such a like great like reliever because it's basically like, oh, it's over. Like, because like for a good portion of like the final act, it's like very like emotionally heavy and driven.
And then
Like, sure,
right
there's
when you
jokes
think
in
Star-Lord's actually gonna die, like his face pumps
Right.
up and everything, you think he's fucking dead, and then no,
You think
Adam
he's about
Warlock
to,
comes
like,
in.
Be like in one of those like old 80s movie in space where like the head explode type thing.
Yeah.
But like I think the most interesting thing is like after that and they have their celebrations is basically the ending where all the characters decide.
Well, okay, we gotta touch on why Adam Warlock helps, because Groot saves his life, and Groot's like,
Yeah,
oh,
Groot saves his life,
and
and
he's
he's
like-
like, "Why did you?" And then Groot's like, "I am Groot," and then Drax translates to like, "Because everyone deserves a second chance."
and it's like,
And it's
and
sort of
like
like-
you said, it plays on that childlike innocence that Adam Warlock has.
He's an
basically-
impressionable child.
He's
Yeah.
an impressionable kid that's just basically doing what his mom wants, and also
And now his mom's
what
dead,
will
so
what will keep his species alive as well.
yeah.
But then his mom dies in front of him. He basically gets beaten down to a pulp repeatedly that he's exhausted.
And then he's like, okay, I'm gonna go save Star-Lord because because he did.
Because he deserves a second chance.
Yeah, everyone deserves a second chance. And so then, and then we get to the point where they're wrapping up the movie, and it's like basically, of course, the Guardians disband, which is that's what I expected, honestly, from this movie. I figured the movie would end with something like that, and
But
Star-Lord.
I like that all the different reasons they have for it.
Yeah,
Star-Lord
Gamora
is-
heads off to go back with the Ravagers and has a really nice goodbye with Peter, and it's like she's like, huh. I don't know you, but I bet we were great. And it's like, it's a really sweet ending. 'Cause I'm so glad they didn't hook them back up. I'm
Like,
so
especially
glad
they showed after that scene that Gamora actually does have a home with the Ravagers.
Yeah,
the
Ravagers.
Ravagers.
Like she goes back and like she
she's
has
happy,
connection with
everyone
them,
reads
and she's
them.
happy.
Like,
It's like that's she has with
basically a
Ravagers. She
dad.
has what she did have with the Guardians.
She basically has Rocky Balboa as a dad.
Yeah,
Right, she has a place. She has a place, and it's not with the Guardians, which
Yeah.
I think was the best way to do that.
And then I also really liked, but like she still just like understands that she meant something to him, even though she's not that person. So it's basically like, look, I bet we were, and then I'll see you around, and then she goes back home.
yep. And so then.
And
Then the Guardians start. The Guardians officially disband. Peter's like, I've been running my entire life from Earth, and when I was taken by the Ravagers, I have not gone back since, except for Endgame. But we don't talk about that apparently. But even then, that was still for a fight. Anyways, he's like, I'm gonna head back to Earth, get back in touch with my grandpa, see if he's still alive, and that sort of thing. Because he's pretty much the only family I got left other than you guys. And then Mantis is like, I'm gonna go on a journey of self-discovery too. Drax is like, hey, let me come with you. And Drax is like, and Mantis is like, no, I need to do this on my own. And then Nebula and Drax stay behind to raise Nowhere into a real community. And Drax is pretty much gonna be a dad to all of the kids, which I think is really sweet.
So yeah, he's basically
And
the
Drax dances.
Drax does dance.
He's the community dad, and then there's Nebula, who's basically going to be mayor.
Yeah.
And
She's
then
like, I'm gonna make this a society. I'm gonna make this the safe
like,
place
so
that I
is
never
that
had.
it? Because like from Rocket's perspective, he's like scared of losing his friends again, and they're like, no, we just need to like discover ourselves again, because Peter needs to like stop running from his fear of like, or sure there was an endgame for the battle, but you know like the trauma there, because like I don't think he was thinking about that while fighting an endgame. Then there's the whole thing where like Mantis says like, oh, I've spent basically most of my life either doing what
Work for
Ego
Ego
wanted
or
or
for the
what
Guardians.
y'all wanted.
Yeah.
I need to find a thing that's me, and then I can come back if y'all want or we need to. And then Nebula is basically like, hey, I just want to make a place where people can be happy because I never had happiness. And Drax, I need you because you are a good dad.
Yep.
Essentially. And then they all basically agree to make Rocket basically.
Yeah, because Rocket's the most distraught about the Guardians disbanding because it's the only family he's ever had, pretty much.
Make the new Guardians, which includes one of the kids from the ship.
Kraglin and Cosmo.
Cosmo.
And then Groot has his original comic
And
design
Adam.
from the 60s. And Adam Warlock. I think it's very cool that they took Groot's original design from the 60s.
It's also just a really cool lineup, and I wouldn't mind seeing something with them.
I'm sure this will be like if and when we probably do see the Guardians in like Secret Wars or whatever. I'm sure this is the lineup we'll be seeing, and not the original lineup.
I'm really interested to see how their like dynamic will be, especially since Rocket's captain now, and like I really like the development of Rocket throughout this series.
Rocket was essentially, other than Peter, Rocket was the main character of the Guardians series.
Rocket and Peter are essentially the main characters of this series. And, like, they're basically brothers, which is very much touched upon in the second movie. But also, like, there's a lot of things where, like, Peter has a lot of self-growth to do, so does Rocket. And they sort of mirror each other in a way. So it makes sense that at the end they would go very different directions where one of them would become the new captain.
Yeah, and then
the other one will go home.
Yeah, and then of course the post-credit scene shows Peter reconnecting with his dad and just chatting, and then it fades to white and it's like the legendary Star-Lord will return. And I think that's more so they just put that in there because Chris Pratt said he would be willing to play Star-Lord in Secret Wars. I guarantee that's what it is.
I think that the fade to white happened in the other one where it showed the new lineup, but the first one was very much Peter finding his grandpa, and you just have this really touching scene and stuff. There's also like a really funny line where they're basically talking shit about their neighbor.
Yeah. Yeah, and
together.
So then I just think the legendary Star-Lord will return. I think that's literally just because they already decided Star-Lord's going to be in Secret Wars. I think that's it.
I mean, like, let's be honest. Of course they are, because like they need to have like the recognizable names.
Yeah.
I think there's also two other options that are a little less likely, and that is one, Star-Lord gets his own standalone movie.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think they've already pretty much covered
I said
Star-Lord's
less
character.
likely, and two, Disney Plus series.
No.
Like, I do want a Disney Plus series, but not any superhero shit. Just him and his grandpa chilling.
Okay, if and when Star-Lord shows up again, it's either going to be in Secret Wars for like a last hurrah cameo, or it's going to be as a supporting character in somebody else's series. Or in somebody else's series or movie. Because, I mean, I'm pretty sure that they've been talking about doing a Rocket and Groot series, I think. There's not been anything confirmed yet, but there's been reports about that, so...
Yeah, I think if I expect, like, other than Rocket and Groot, if I expect anybody to get a Disney Plus show, it would be the new Gamora.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I can see that.
New Gamora with the Ravagers could be interesting.
That, and they gotta get more, they gotta milk more out of that Sylvester Stallone contract. I'm sure they have.
Yep. But yeah, so that's pretty much the movie. So that's pretty much Guardians 3. Do we have any last thoughts before we wrap up? I do have one thing to say, but I want to know if you guys have anything to say first.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head, so I think I'm good.
I love this movie. I really love it. I love just the emotional impacts of it. And I'm probably going to just fucking look up fanfic of it. just so I can have the reality where Rocket's friends don't die.
Yeah. But yeah, there's my one thing. I have one issue with the movie, and it's a minor thing. It's just a personal thing. I think the soundtrack could have been better because it is not what I was expecting from the soundtrack. Because here's my thing with James Gunn movies. It's like the first Guardians and Guardians 2. This is probably just because I was younger and didn't have my music taste as refined as it is now. But when I was younger, the Guardians movies introduced me to a lot of the music that I really liked. And it was stuff I'd never heard of before. Like, they had Cherry Bomb in the first Guardians. And a bunch of stuff like that. And Come and Get Your Love. First time I ever heard Come and Get Your Love was the Guardians 1 intro. I think a lot of the songs in Guardians 2, or in Guardians 3, I was expecting to be more obscure James Gunn picks, like some of those were, or at least they were to me at that age. I was also in middle school, so that's probably just a me thing. But a lot of the songs in this were more recognizable. Like there was there was Creep, there was No Sleep Till Brooklyn, and that sort of thing. So
I do think they had a lot of recognizable picks in the previous movies.
I don't think recognizable. I mean, I can kind of get why you have that gripe, but I don't think it's bad.
yeah,
I
don't think it's bad either. I think it's just like I said, it's just a personal gripe.
I mean, the only really obscure one to some people would be Since You've Been Gone by Rainbow. Great band, by the way. And then there's but like I really liked the song that ended the movie, "The Dog Days Are Over," because
That was great,
that's just
yeah.
perfect. That's just perfect.
And it's
When
also
I
one of the
heard
only Guardian
fucking
songs that was not released. It was one of the only Guardian songs not really that was not really. I think it is the only Guardian song other than like the brief Hatsune Miku cameo that was released in the 21st century, not the 20th century.
No, yeah, because he literally goes to the 2000s part of the playlist.
Yep.
And when I heard the ukulele intro, I'm like, oh my god!
I heard you in the theater.
Because like I love that song so much.
Mhm.
So like it just hit more.
Yeah, I don't know. My favorite song inclusion in the Guardian series was the chain, and
in Guardians 2.
No, that
That
is
was
by far
fantastic.
That's one of their most well done uses of music.
I agree.
yeah, no, that was
I think
excellent.
All the music used in
The
Guardians
scene
3
doing
definitely
the
fit the scenes
R.
very, very well. I think it was just, my personal gripe is that it didn't introduce me to anything new that I hadn't heard before. So,
Well, like there was like I feel like you probably haven't heard the Rainbow song, but it was so brief.
I had heard it because it was in the trailer for this movie. So,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
yeah.
Well, it was the trailer's song, but it was so brief in the movie because it's basically like, we're going to save Rocket, and then it's like,
Yeah.
It's also one of the few ones, like including the Brooklyn one, where the lyrics aren't really important to what's happening.
Yeah.
Because Since You've Been Gone is basically a guy being vindictive to an ex being like breaking up with him in such an annoying and bad way.
Well, I mean, that is right after Gamora gets reintroduced that plays, I think.
I mean,
So-
that's true. That's true. But I feel like that's a little
bit of a stretch.
stretchy.
Yeah.
All right, but with
That
that
was
said and
supposed
done,
to
I
stretch
think
this
I'm gonna go
song
ahead.
Among
I'm
Us.
gonna go ahead and call this stream here. I have to piss, so I
No, before you do, they dressed up as Among Us and they literally vent.
okay.
Good
I'm
night.
ending the fucking stream now.